Google to the good stuff. This is a presentation designed to help students use the research skills that they already have, the kind of digital fluency that they possess, and translate that into effective graduate level literary research. What are the goals of graduate level research? Why do professors require students to do this? Well, there are several reasons. It's not just busy work. First of all, students wish or will learn about the subject at a deeper level than undergraduate students do. They wish to find out what other scholars have to say about the subject matter. In order to do this, graduate students need to learn the craft of research, which is to say the tools, the accessories, the methods of finding out information. And this can be taught, this can be learned. The next level is the art of research, and I think there's some intuition that goes on with this. This is a matter of loosening up and being willing to trust your instincts as you learn material in your area. And why do you do these things? Why do you get the craft and turn it into an art? So that you can develop skills and knowledge worthy of a master of the discipline. And ultimately, you'll engage in the ongoing scholarly discussion. You will become part of the exchange of information and ideas that you access while you're doing research. You'll become one of those people. Now, let's suppose you've been given an assignment. It is a basic analysis. Let's say you're going to have to do a presentation on American poet Gwendolyn Brooks' poem, 7 at the Golden Shovel. And in order to do a good job with your presentation, you will have to build some graduate level research into it. It's a short poem, but a powerful poem. We real cool. We left school. We lurk late. We strike straight. We sing sin. We thin gin. We jazz June. We die soon, is the poem. All right, we want to discover some information about this poem. We do our own thinking. We have our own ideas about it, but because we are master degree students, we want to develop and interact with other scholars in the field. How do we begin? What's the first thing that we do when we want to find out information? We access Google. Everybody does this. It's a stunningly powerful search tool for the World Wide Web, and it's okay to start there. Most of you have a pretty sharp idea of how Google works and the sort of search terms that are effective. Let's just type in Gwendolyn Brooks and hit enter. And you see that you have hundreds of thousands of entries returned, organized by Google's mysterious matrix into a certain kind of priority or hierarchy. The first one is usually Wikipedia. Now, the question is, do graduate students use Wikipedia? And the answer is, sure, let's do it. Even the professors who teach your classes will use Wikipedia for helpful basic information. Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, so we don't cite it in our work. We don't cite any encyclopedias. What we want to find out is, where does this encyclopedia get its information? Those are the sources we want to track down. If you scroll to the bottom of a well-done Wikipedia entry, you will find that there are references and external links. The more information savvy that you become in your literary studies, you'll recognize things like, under external links, the fifth one down, Modern American Poetry. Modern American Poetry is a website that is maintained by the University of Illinois, and it's an offshoot of Oxford University Press's Modern American Poetry Anthology. So it's one of those well-supported, useful websites it's worth clicking on. Here's the Gwendolyn Brooks entry on modern American poetry. If you look at the second entry with the blue hyperlink indication on We Real Cool, which means about that poem, if we click on this, we will find excerpts from various sources. Here's an interview with Gwendolyn Brooks by George Stavros. Here is an excerpt from an explicator article by Barbara Sims that analyzes one perspective of the poem. Here's another explicator excerpt by Gary Smith. These sorts of sources are useful and helpful, but typically they're more designed for undergraduate students. They're less thorough and less complicated or sophisticated as far as graduate students' need to find out information goes. Now, let's look at this excerpt. It's taken from an article by Hortense Spiller's Gwendolyn the Terrible. Notice the rather sophisticated use of language. Here's an article by Catherine Lindbergh. Let's note the academic language that she uses. And the fact that she references other poets. We're beginning to see that this is the kind of information that might be useful to us in a graduate level presentation. Here's the title of the anthology that Catherine Lindbergh's article appears in. She has a chapter in a book called Gendered Modernisms, American Women Poets and Their Readers. We want to notice it's published by University of Pennsylvania Press, one of the Ivy League presses. So there's a number of things about this source that look very helpful and useful for us. So let's access this book. Where do we get books like Gendered Modernisms? Let's check the Gardner-Webb University's Dover Library. Here's the home page. We'll access the catalog by typing in the title of the book. Do you think Gardner-Webb has in its holdings the book Gendered Modernisms? And the answer is, yes, we do. So here it is. This is the way that bibliographical information is presented when you search Dover Library's book catalog. Here are the contents of the book Gendered Modernisms, and you can see toward the bottom the article, Lindbergh's article that we're interested in accessing. You may also notice under status, this book is checked out. When I put this slideshow together, I checked the book out. Typically, books like this will be available for you. Let's look further on down through the details, the bibliographic details of this book, to see how it's listed. Look at the subject headings. This is another way to access topics that are related to the topic that we are searching to locate books in our library. All of these are hyperlinks under subject and will lead us to lists of books that are or may be related to our search. However, if we go back up and click on the Library of Congress number, here's where the book appears on the shelf. In the old days, when you had to go to the library and walk down the rows between shelves of books, sometimes it was very useful to shelf browse, to look left and right from the book that you want to locate. This is a digital version of shelf browsing. Look down a few, look up a few, and see what books are nearby this book on our library shelves. Some of these may be of interest to you. in doing your research. Notice also that some of these are electronic sources. You can click on them and read them from the comfort and security of your own bedroom while you're sitting there with your fuzzy slippers on. You don't even need to go to the library to access the information in those books. When you have a book in your hands, even digital books, always go to the index. Academic books always have indexes, and they will help you discover topic areas within the book you may have overlooked. Gwendolyn Brooks' poem, We Real Cool, 7 at the Golden Shovel, may be referenced in other sections of the book besides the specific chapter that you're looking at. All right, one of the other books that we saw on MAP, or Modern American Poetry's website, is A Life Distilled, that is, Reflections on the Life and Work of Gwendolyn Brooks. However, when we type this title into the Gardner Web catalog, we don't come up with a hit for it. So, are we done? We're not done. Let's go back to Google. Let's do a drop-down menu and pick Google Books. Google Books is a tremendously ambitious project designed to digitize the pages of millions of books so that they can be accessed online. If we look for A Life Distilled in Google Books, we will find that it comes up. This Google digitized form has a preview. So if we click on the link, we can see a table of contents for the book, and we're going to notice names like the introduction there is written by Michael Harper. We're going to see one of the first sections is Houston A. Baker. These are some major scholars in the fields of African American literary criticism. As graduate students, we need to find out who are the major players in our field. We need to familiarize ourselves with the leading scholars that set the bar for the scholars who follow, who write in essentially reply or against the points that they make. And these are several of those scholars. All right, that book wasn't in our library, so let me take you to abebooks.com, antiquarianbookexchange.com. It is a consortium of used book dealers, primarily in the United States, but also around the world. This business is a graduate student's best friend, because if you are going into the field of studying a particular author, you need to build your own library of that author's works and secondary works. We type in A Life Distilled, and here's a nice looking copy of it that costs $1.87. You throw in $3.50 for shipping. You can have this book in your hands by next Tuesday. Graduate students build critical libraries of the figures that they are studying. You need to put your books together, and ABE Books can become your best friend. All right, let's go back to Gardner Webb University Library. It's not just the book catalog that is of interest to us here. We can also search for scholarly articles here, not just book-length studies and anthologies, but critical articles that are useful to us and of interest to us that have been published in academic journals. Academic Search Premier. This is probably the most popular database for students in many different disciplines. Academic Search Premier accesses thousands of journals and newspapers. And let's pick that database and let's type in Gwendolyn Brooks and let's give it a search. Now, one of the things that happens when you pick a large database like this, you get results that may not be targeted toward your needs. The number 7 result, Write Like You Talk, promising because it's a publication in English journal, turns out not to be an critical or analytical article about Gwendolyn Brooks. Number 8, Ben Ratliff in the New York Times simply used 3 words, "We Jazz June" by Gwendolyn Brooks, to set up an article, or really an editorial, a feature piece about June. June is the month for buying air conditioners. It begins. And you can tell that this is not an article that is going to be helpful for you in putting together your academic presentation. So, let's use Academic Search Premier with caution and sharp eye. Let's click on the full list of databases that are available for Gardner-Webb University. And as literature students, let's pick JSTOR, which stands for Journal Storage. It was put together in 1995, or it began in 1995, developed by the Modern Language Association, the same people who do the MLA bib. And it provides access to digitally stored articles. Let's be specific then. Let's type in Gwendolyn Brooks. Let's type in We Real Cool. Let's go, and let's look at the list. Some of these names are going to seem familiar to you. Look at the search result number 1, George Stavros. Here's the full interview with Gwendolyn Brooks that we saw an excerpt from at the Modern American Poetry site. Here's an article by James Sullivan. He was the curator of the Modern American Poetry site. Let's look at the 4th one down, Richard Flynn, The Kindergarten of New Consciousness. It is published in African American Review. It's available as PDF, permanent document file, and that's what we're going to look at. Here's the PDF of Richard Flynn's article, Kindergarten of New Consciousness. This turns out to be a remarkably helpful article for us in putting together our presentation on Gwendolyn Brooks. After we read his article, let's click on the link for African American Review, and you'll see that in its earlier incarnation, Black American Literature Forum from 1976, that JSTOR has made available to you all the way through 2006, years worth of critical articles in African American literary criticism. As a graduate student, this excites you. This is something that you wish to begin to explore. You don't need to subscribe to a review in order to have access to every page of it and going back for many years. All right, if we click on it, here's the breakdown of the recent volumes of African American Review. Since we're curious, since we are learners, since we're developing the art of research, let's pick a volume. Let's pick 2001's winter issue. And in there we see an article by Deborah Clark about Their Eyes Were Watching God. This is widely considered to be one of the top American novels of the first half of the 20th century. Because we care about literature, because we're passionate about African American literary criticism, let's read it. All right, we click on it, and we're kicking back now, reading something interesting and insightful and knowledgeable that we might agree with, or we might find some disagreement with. But we're learning, and we're beginning to participate. If we go to the very end of this article, like all scholarly academic articles, it contains its own works cited. And every work listed here, whether it's a book, an article in an academic journal, a chapter in an anthology, all of these are available to you because you can access them through Gardner-Webb University's Dover Library or through Google Books, or you can get the physical book itself through abebooks.com. This is a treasure trove of learning for you. So, we started with Google, and we ended up reading academic journals.